Hello and welcome back to another video. Today it's extremely windy, New Year's well underway, so trains will be going past, so I thought it'd be a perfect time to do a video if you can hear me over this wind. Today we're going to be looking at a fault that we've got with this headlamp. Drove to work, working perfectly fine, went to leave work. It decided that it wasn't going to light up, so I thought, no problem, just a blown headlamp. Took the lamp out, had a look at it, looked absolutely fine. Tested it on a spare battery that I've got, and it worked fine. So I thought, right, great, okay, might be a fuse. Checked the fuse, sure enough, found a blown fuse, chucked another one in there, blew straight away as soon as I put the headlamps on. So we're going to investigate that today. Okay, so now I'm fully regretting making this video on such a windy day. As you can see, my hand-drawn wiring diagram has got, well, a couple of drops of water splattered on it as I was walking out the door, so that's always good. So as the fuse is blowing, I decided to get the wiring diagram. And this particular one is actually copied from the Haynes manual. Well, it'll all be the same in theory everywhere you look. So what I decided to do is, for completeness, I drew this part up here. So this is obviously the battery that feeds the light switch, and then the low beam switch. This is the indicator stalk, but obviously you've got your high beam and low beam. We know that everything on this side of the circuit is fine. It's got to be, because it's supplying power to this point, and it's this point that is where the fuse is blowing. So that must mean we have got excessive current, which is obviously being taken on this side of the fuse, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do, I'll put this on the screen so you can see exactly what a better copy of this instead of me holding this. The first thing I'm going to do is, we've got a X6 connector here, which I'm led to believe is inside the passenger compartment somewhere around the fuse, around the glove box area. We've got a check control unit that has its own plugs going to it, and we have also got our headlamp. Obviously, this supplies the two left and right headlamp level motors. That's what brings the headlamps up and down depending on what weight you've got in the car. These are all fairly easy to get to. So we'll start off by in fact, no, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how I'm going to test this. Well, it's obviously a short to ground, it's got to be. So I'm going to grab some equipment and we're going to have a look at how we're going to test this. Okay, a couple of bits of equipment acquired. A length of wire here, two cables with crocodile clips on the end, 150 milliamp test lamp, and this is a makeshift test lamp. It's basically an old cluster for, well, funny enough, for a Cavalier rear light cluster. With the various connections on there, we can basically use multiple or one or two test lamps to basically use for higher current testing. We should only need one of these lamps today. I'll go into a bit more detail in that in a little while. This is our fuse compartment. Thankfully this folds down for better viewing for you guys. So the fuse is actually already removed from from the holder. It's this one here, it's fuse number 25, it's a 10 amp. Thankfully these are all colour coded so you can see what the original current rating was. So first of all I'm going to get my 150 milliamp test lamp. One side of that is going to go to ground. Now the lights do work on this with the ignition off, but the alarm will go off for the headlamps left on, which makes an annoying sound, especially on video. So let me just turn the ignition on for 1 second. Okay, so basically this is only live when the headlamps are on, and if we refer to my wiring diagram here, you will see that battery positive is fed through the light switch, the low beam switch, and then that feeds fuse 25. So with the headlamps off, we should have nothing on either side of this fuse. Side lights are now on, and again we'll have nothing because we've not switched on the headlamps. Headlamps are now on, and sure enough we have a test light. Obviously we've only got it on one side. That's exactly what we was expecting. And for completeness, if I now put the high beams on, that dies again. Reason being is the high beams are actually fed from another fuse. I don't know which one it is. In all honesty, it's totally irrelevant, but the high beam does actually work. So now I'm going to set up a wire from battery positive. That's going to be this wire here, and then we're going to use the test light to find a ground. So because this fuse is obviously blowing, it's obviously some kind of, we don't know where it is yet, but we know that we've got a dead short to ground. So that so we're going to have, well, it's not a direct short, there's enough that it's passing more than 10 amps current, let's put it that way, because a 10 amp fuse doesn't blow at just 10 amps, it would probably blow at probably about 25% more than that, probably a bit more, to protect the wiring. So yeah, let's go and get a battery positive connected up. Positive cable now connected up as a temporary test cable. Really you should use a suitable sized fuse here. I don't have anything, it's something I kind of have to make up, but you do what you do, don't you? So this wire comes along here, and is fed to here. Okay, so I've got my power feed coming in through this cable here. It's going to light up this test lamp. This is a dual filament brake light, tail light, so this isn't going to swamp out the camera too much, so you can still see what I'm doing, but obviously it was still light. I have a T-pin here. These are made for model working or model making or whatever. That's the door brushing in on me. These are conductive, very useful, very sharp on the ends there, so these are ideal for testing. Now, as I said earlier, I suspect that we have on this wire here somewhere, we have a path to ground. At the moment, if everything was absolutely okay, this is true. Our headlamp is indeed connected through to ground, and we will get a test light. I am going to try and prove this with my 150 milliamp test light here. So if I connect this to my ground here, in actual fact, let me put that onto the door post again. Right, so if I touch this test lamp to this wire here, you will see get it in shot, you will see that this test lamp is lit. I'm not sure, you can see that it's lit dimly on this particular circuit, and that's because some of the current is actually going through this lamp here. But you could probably, I don't know if you can just about see, but I can with the naked eye, that lamp is very, very dimly lit. I'm not too sure if you can see that or not. And what that's doing is that's kind of acting like a resistor for us. So you can see why we can safely test like this, because we are putting a limited amount of current through this here, through the fuse connection. So now if I get my test lamp, put that to my ground connection there, and then put that into where our fuse goes, our test lamp there will light up. As I said before, that's kind of expected, because we've got a guaranteed path to ground through this headlamp here. So we could well have this could well have, I mean, this is 55 watts. You're probably never going to see this glow. However, there might be a bit of heat emitting from it as it's acting as a resistor. We've also got a path to ground through here and here potentially, and also at the check control unit. Any one of these can give us a path to ground. The connections for the headlamp and these left hand and right hand motors are easy to get to. So what we'll do, we'll disconnect all three of these first, and we'll still see if we have a test lamp or not. So handy cam again. As you can see down here, that's one of our headlamp level motors disconnected. This is the left hand headlamp, of course. Right hand side, as you can see, just about see there, our right hand level motor is disconnected, which is this connection here, which is the one with the green rubber on it, and obviously the actual headlamp itself is also disconnected. So hopefully the test lamp will go out. So of course what I should have said there is, now that we've disconnected the headlamp and the two motors, we should in theory have created even more resistance to path to ground, because we've still got our check control module fitted. We've also got a potential fault to ground through the wiring. So if I connect this up now, the test lamp still lights, so we've still got some kind of path to ground. So I think what I'm going to do next is disconnect this, get the paperwork, disconnect this X6 connector. Curiously, this X6 connector is on one side of this headlamp. This is how it's drawn in the Haynes manual. I suspect this could be a little bit wrong. This X6 connector is by the passenger door kick panel. So I would suggest everything underneath this X6 control connector is the right hand headlamp level motor, the left hand, and obviously the headlamp itself. I do believe this part here is correct, which is the check control unit, because that is around the passenger glove box area. I actually think this is slightly incorrect. It might have been done on purpose for to prevent copying, or it's a form of copyright. I don't know if you've heard the term of paper towns. Paper towns is where it's actually placed on the map. A town is placed on the map in a certain area, but don't actually exist. So if another map maker comes along and copies their map, essentially they know it's a copy from their own map, if that makes sense. So let's go and locate this X6 connector, disconnect it. We'll be able to do some testing there. We'll be able to go this side of it and test this side of it. Basically split the system in half, and we know which side we're dealing with where the fault to ground potentially is. It will also be worth trying to find where this K86 check control unit is, disconnect that, and then we can isolate that as well. Well, I have actually left my test light connected while I'm doing this, and as you can see, most of them connectors are out now, and my test lamp has gone out. Now if I push that back in, test light comes back on. So let me get you set up so you can see that. So that's the X6 connector unplugged, and as I push it back in, test light lights. So now let's see if I can pull this right out, and we'll bring my test light over here and see which pin we've actually got a ground on. Okay, so I've just been in and printed this off. This is thanks to a chap called Rob C on the Vauxhall Cavalier Mark III Cavalier Owners Network, vauxhallcavalier.com. He done this nice sort of Excel style spreadsheet of all the different pin outs, obviously the wiring colours in both words and physical colours, as you can see there, and also what it feeds. Now, it's not the best print, actually. It shows up better on camera than it does in real life. How's that? And also on the back of this, this was also listed on the same listing. This is the actual pin out of the plug itself. This is the plug side and not the socket side. They didn't know the origination of this diagram, and neither do I. So yeah, but if you search for the X6 connector for Vauxhall Cavalier, you will find this image quite easily in several areas. So let's have a quick look at this now. Okay, so I've had to come quite creative with the camera angle there, but hopefully that shows everything. I have to move this out of the way. So the pin we're after is pin number 35, and we have a yellow wire coming out of it. Before we go any further, it's pretty obvious that this wiring harness here goes up to towards the engine bay, and this is obviously going to stay inside. So test light again is connected one side to battery positive. That wind really is picking up now, and again this pin is our path to ground, or what I should say is, as soon as that finds a ground, the test light will light. So now we just need to find, what number was it now, pin 35. Okay, so looking at this wiring diagram here, I don't know if you can see that. I'm looking at it the same way as this is being displayed here, which is handy. So pin 1, pin 15, so I'm assuming that's 1 to 14 down here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. So if that's pin 29 there, pin 29 there, and 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So if we put our test pin in there, and we do not have a test light. Let me just touch that to ground. We've still got a test light. Always confirm your equipment's working. You don't want to be led up the garden path with it. 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So that should be our pin 35. Let me just confirm that is indeed correct. That's what it says. It might be worth us taking this cover off and confirming that we do have a yellow wire behind on the other side of this. I might do that. Yep, let's do that. There's the cover off. So pin, what did I say it was? That one there, I think. So 29, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So it's next to this one here. Oh. And that looks like that is our yellow wire that we are looking for. I don't know if you could quite see that in there. I'll get my fat arms out of the way and use my screwdriver point. That's our yellow wire indeed being fed up to the headlamps. So this is suggesting to me that our fault isn't indeed under the bonnet, but it is on this connector here. So now let's see if I'm right on that. So 29 is that one there, which means that one's 29. Are you even seeing any of this? So let me sort of bring you in a bit closer. There we go. So 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. So if I connect onto this one here, we do not get a test light. How strange is that? Why have we no longer got a test light? Let's make sure the equipment works. Test light lights. Am I counting this right? Test light. Has the fault cleared? There was no dampness or anything in this wiring harness. So if I pulled something, maybe I've pulled something and cleared the fault. I'm going to put this back together. Maybe what I should do is put my test light back onto that pin there. So put that back onto 35. Let's go this, we'll just sneak up on the side of it just so we don't spread the connectors out too much. So yeah, that looks like we're on the right pin there. So let's have a bit of a play. Can't make the test light light at all. How very strange is that? I wonder if we should pull this down. Okay, so I'll put the plug back in there. Got the test light back over here. I've lost my T-pin along the way. That ain't going to hurt for a minute. I've plugged the plug back in, as I've probably just said. The plugs for the two level motors and the headlamp are still disconnected, so we'll see if we've still got a test light. We do. Okay, so this one has me baffled at the moment. So I can back probe pin 35 here. Test lamp doesn't light. I could front probe it here. Is that right? 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, yeah. And get absolutely nothing. So 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Absolutely nothing there either. At the moment, I temporarily connect this connector up. No, that's totally wrong. And before I actually plug it in, if I back probe that same pin 35 again, the moment those two connect, test lamp lights. That has me baffled, to be quite honest. The only thing I can think of is this somehow powering something up, and it's actually feeding back into that wire. Actually, I just had a thought. I've totally glossed over something, and that is the check control module. That is the only thing. This is entirely possible that this is totally disconnecting that check control module, and is therefore taking the fault out of circuit, because this could be totally and utterly disconnecting that control module, if that makes sense. Any positive connection that has, I think we need to look at that next. So if you come with me up into the dash here, that I believe is our check control module, and look at that, we have bits of rust on there. I think this is our fault. I'm going to take this glove box out now so we can get a better look on the subject and actually get to those connectors. There's some connectors just up there, you can just about see. I think this is going to be our fault. Actually, I think I may have told you wrong here. That may well be the ECU, engine control module. The actual thing we're after, I believe, is this here. Bear with me 1 second while I just throw some light on the subject. Can you see that there? The reason what makes me think this is the unit we're looking for is there's a few yellow wires going to it, and it's the yellow wires. I think if I remember right, looking on the wiring diagram, there is a few yellow wires going to this module. So I think I'm going to take this out first, or disconnect this first, and go from there. See if our fault clears. Right, finally I've managed to disconnect this side of the module. This side's still connected. I can't really see what I'm doing under here because I've got this bit of air ducting in the way, and also the airbag. That's still connected, by the way, at this point, so yes. Okay. Test light at the ready. Remember, see this, you can. As soon as we find a path to ground, test light lights. And now if I go into here, onto that pin, our lamp pin, push on the connector to connect it, because we haven't got a lock on because I haven't got the cover on, and we have no test light. I think we've found our problem. So, what's next? I think I want to prove a point first. I'm going to reconnect the headlamp and the two motors and see if we can get this test light to light. I believe this will light because we will provide a path to ground through the lamp itself, through the headlamp, and then that would be proof of concept that we have actually cleared the fault, I think. So let me just go and do that. Okay, those headlamps now reconnected. The two level motors are reconnected. I am that confident. I put back the little cover that goes over the back of the headlamp. So let's find my wire again. There she is, and we have a test light. That is expected because we got a decent path to ground through the headlamp. This is proof of concept. Okay, so new fuse going in. Oh, headlamps on. Oh. Okay, so as you see there, the fuse blew straight away. So that was an ill-found bit of confidence there. The headlamp and the two levelling motors are disconnected, but when I put pressure on this again to make a good connection, you can see that fuse 25 on the feed side, the test lamp turns on. If I let go, turns off, turns on. Now I thought, God, where the hell am I going wrong here? Because I thought I'm going mad. So I had another look at my wiring diagrams here, and I totally and utterly glossed over something that I didn't see before, and that is this headlamp adjuster, level control adjuster, whatever you want to call it, is actually fed from fuse 25. Now, it doesn't take a genius to show. Well, I mean, I know it's the headlamp adjuster, and you know it now because that's what we've called it. But if you look here, it actually goes to our G connection on our two motors here, so it's pretty obvious that this is the control for this. As you can see, it looks like a fairly simple switch. So there's our ground wire, that goes up, and no, ignore that, that's the ground wire for the backlight inside the actual switch itself, if that makes sense, and then that's just the feed for it. What we're looking for is on this side here. So there's our fuse 25 at the top there. Sorry if this is out of shot. And as you can see, it comes down here and goes through. Yeah, it does go through this ground wire. Sorry, that is relevant. Sorry, I'm getting a bit tired now, I think. So basically what this is, these are little resistor symbols, in case you didn't know that. So basically what this is essentially it's a voltage divider. So depending on which resistor you have switched in, sends a different voltage down this wire here to our G on our two headlamp levelling motors. So our next port of call is to take this out and actually disconnect it and see if our fault then clears. Right, okay. So I should use a plastic trim tool for this really, but I've got a screwdriver. This should hopefully just leave her out. That's the theory anyway.
Here she comes. Come on.
Well, that was a nightmare to get out. Let's see if our fault clears. Okay. Right. Putting pressure on. That is now connected back in. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly connect my headlamp again, temporarily. Does that make my light light? It does not, but I might need to push down my connector again. No, that seems to... I believe that has cleared again. Okay. So, has this been the fault all along? Can't see that there's much doing with that really. Sure enough, it lights up as soon as we reinstate it. That was a mistake putting that back in there, wasn't it? Right, fuse. Okay, let's try putting this 10 amp fuse in again. Headlights. Hasn't blown. Well, the fuse hasn't blown, but we do not have headlights either. But that might be because we've disconnected so much of the wiring loom. Okay, moment of truth, take 394. The X6 connector is now connected up. The check control module is now plugged back in again. Headlights on, no blown fuses. And we finally have a nice pair of headlamps. Hurrah! Now, who would have thought that a little module like this could blow a fuse? I'm intrigued to know why that decided to fail like that. It must have a resistor or something that's just completely shorting, because after all said and done, through that resistor network, it does provide a path directly to ground from positive. So yeah, I think we're going to take this apart and see what's wrong. But before I do that, I think I better put this car back together before we lose any more daylight. I just had a notification come up on my phone saying that my battery's low, and it ain't kidding either. Lights are off at the moment, so I think the best thing to do is start her up and have a bit of a charge. Try this again. I'm just letting the engine run for a bit to allow the battery to have a little bit of a charge. Had the doors open, had the alarm going off. That reminds me I need to reconnect the horn for that. Yes, I'm just sitting here with the headlamps on for a minute while I'm allowing the battery to charge, just for a bit of a test. But it's obvious that the little level switch was at fault. Quite surprising, you know, considering it's in a dry environment. I was fully expecting it to be a wire that's rubbed through to the chassis rail somewhere and creating a direct path to ground. I'm very surprised that a unit like that would fail in such a way, but on the other hand, me knowing how it works, it's also not surprising. I strongly suspect that one or more of the resistors has failed, and instead of failing, instead of opening or failing open, I should say, it's actually got no resistance there at all. So it's actually directly putting ground and positive battery together and blowing the fuse. So yeah, I'm glad that I found that one, because that was really starting to get what could be wrong with this, you know, because it was a bit baffling. Hopefully you guys will benefit from this video. At least if you've got a Cavalier, at least you'll be able to go straight for that and take that switch out and replace the fuse if you have the same issue. However, I mean, this video also applies to other cars, not just to Cavaliers or Vauxhalls. You know, as long as you got a little wiring diagram you can follow, ultimately, if you follow it correctly, you will get to a source like I did here today. I will update the wiring diagram and I'll take another picture of it, and I'll update it on the video later on, just for completeness, and especially being that it was the fault all along, it's more important that it should be on that diagram. So hopefully I've made it nice and clear and easy for you to do your own fault finding. Any comments, concerns, criticisms, you know, just put them in the comments below. I'm open. I'm happy to read all the comments. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.